He went in there with Sneako like he was pawing at a baby. If Bryce Hall's smart, he will watch that video and he will go in there and look as helpless and stupid as possible when they first start, lull him to sleep, and then
circling out to the inside,
and then try to do that. That's your only chance of winning, is lull him to sleep and then do that before he realizes that you're not Sneako. My opinion, if you put Sean Strickland into BKFC, he is instantly the best bare-knuckle boxer in the world. All right, big video. Got a bunch of topics we're going to talk about. I'm going to just lay them out for you right now. Number one, Sean Strickland does not know who Bryce Hall is, and neither do most of you guys. I'm going to show you some footage of Bryce Hall actually fighting so that we will change that for everyone, because he's very different than these other influencers. Now, also, we have a BKFC World Champion who wants to call for Sean Strickland, and that's interesting as well. I'm going to show you some footage of him winning the title or retaining the title in a crazy knockout. I'm going to have footage of Bryce Hall in BKFC, this dude in BKFC that I'm going to show you shortly. And also, we're going to talk about the biggest story, which is that there is a report that Dana White made an offer to buy BKFC. And I'm going to tell you exactly how much he supposedly offered. And we're going to talk about that. And it's from a relatively credible source, dude. So I did say there is no way that Dana's going to be talking to BKFC and not be, angling to buy the company. I also said for sure Feldman would lie about that if that was true, and so would Dana. No one would say anything about it out loud up front if they're negotiating behind the scenes, because why would that for sure? I told you, and now there's a report that he offered a 9-figure number, a big one, that we're going to talk about in this video. And since we're talking BKFC, I'm also going to do a section where I talk about how well Sean Strickland would do in BKFC. Where do I think Sean Strickland would land as a BKFC fighter if he just immediately was shot over to BKFC and that's where he was? I'm going to talk about that as well. So this is going to be a fun video. Anyway, so that's what we're going to do. Go ahead and subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet. I promise I have other good stuff to talk about. I just can't remember what it is right now, and I'm just going to keep going. So subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet. Like the video, and let's rock and roll. If you are a Kratom user and use it every day, and you buy by the kilogram, go to YoKratom.com, $60 kilograms. It'll get to you in 2 days. YoKratom.com, $60 kilograms, all the strains. You guys are going to love it. I fully recommend it. All right, so later in the video, I'm going to show you a bunch of footage of these guys. Bryce Hall fighting, knocking somebody out. I got the other guy knocking people out, and then I'm going to talk about Sean Strickland being well, I'll probably put it in the preview, why I think he would be the best bare-knuckle boxer in the world overnight. But we're going to start right here because this is by far the most important story from the business perspective. Like, if Sean ends up fighting one of these guys or both of these guys, it's going to be in a sparring match. It's going to have no effect on anything, and that's just what it's going to be. If the UFC buys BKFC, that is a very, very different ball game. And Mike Perry, current champion at BKFC, I don't really understand, like he's like the king of something or other, but certainly the biggest star that BKFC has by a mile, says that Dana White made a lowball offer to buy BKFC for $200 million and got rejected by David Feldman, and that is claimed by Mike Perry. Now, I'm going to read this article to you guys, and then I'm going to talk about the legitimacy of this story, whether it's true, whether it's not. I will say in advance, like I said, I would literally bet my life, and I'll explain again why. There is no scenario where Dana is talking to Dave Feldman and he is not setting up to buy bare knuckle boxing. Like, it's just like to buy BK. It's just like that is the only reason he would be talking to him. Either that or he's fishing for information. Okay. This idea that, well, anyway, it doesn't matter. There's a report that he offered to buy. So we're going to talk about that first, and then we'll talk about how legit it sounds. All right, so bare-knuckle boxing promotion phenom and UFC fighter Mike Perry said that BKFC president David Feldman rejected Dana White's offer to acquire the promotion. Speaking about it on a recent episode of Overdogs, Platinum stated, "You want to know what I heard about the meeting with David Feldman and Dana? I didn't hear this from a reliable source, but there was a drunk guy, and he said he was talking to somebody credible, and he said something about there was an offer being made to purchase BKFC. I think it was, a lowball offer, $200 million for the BKFC, and Feldman said no." Now, we are in my world now, okay, as it relates to all of the things that might be going on here, okay, because you have a multitude of possibilities, and I don't think any of them are likely to be, or I think like the least likely is that Mike Perry, the biggest star in BKFC, just randomly heard some drunk guy saying that he heard from a credible source that the BKFC, $200 million, like, no, there's not, like, that's not what's happening, I would say, pretty much for sure. Okay. And I'll tell you why I can say that is because A, Mike Perry is the biggest star in BKFC. He has Dave Feldman's number. He probably talks to Dave Feldman all the time. Okay. So a drunk guy, he's not going to talk about that on a podcast. You know, like he's not just going to talk about that on a podcast if some drunk idiot was all, I think over the 200 million. No, even Mike Perry is not going to do that. And the reason I can say that is because there are so many other reasons that he would talk about this that make way more sense. All right. So do we think that there is a possibility that Dana made a $200 million offer to BKFC? I think there is. I think there is. Now, there are other people who I consider extremely credible who told me that I'm out of my goddamn mind to think that that's even plausible because Dave Feldman would have taken that money in 1 second. So that's also totally plausible. But I do think it's possible, and I'll tell you why. So Dave Feldman is raising money for BKFC. What I've heard is that he is raising it at a pre-money valuation that is less than 200 million. I won't get into the exact details, but to where okay, actually, let me rewind. So what it means when I say that a person is raising money at a let's just say it was 150 million, right? So as an example, let's say he was raising money at 150 million pre-money valuation. Okay, what that means is that the value of the company as they are raising it would be valued at 150 million before they took the money in. So, example, let's say that they're raising $30 million, and let's say that there are 150 million shares. There's not, but just to make this as easy as possible, if there are 150 million shares, okay, that means it's $1 a share if you value the company at 150 million. I hope that this is not, I hope there's no one who's been hit in the head hard enough to not understand that. If it's worth $150 million and there's 150 million shares, then each share is worth $1. Pretty straightforward. 150 million divided by 150 million is 1. Okay. So if that's the case, and then they raise $30 million, right? So that would mean that the $30 million was raised at $1 per share. Okay. So the $150 million company just became a $180 million company, 150 plus 30, right? And the dollar amount is still $1 a share. So if you were someone who owned 50 million shares, meaning 30% of the company, right? 33% of the company, a third of the company. If you own 50 million shares out of 150 million shares beforehand, then that would be 33%. Okay. Now you still own 50 million shares. I'm not going to get into common and preferred stock. It's too complicated. It doesn't matter for you guys. But if you own 50 million shares, now there's 180 million shares afterwards. Okay. So now your 50, you divide that by 180. Since now your 33% has now gone to 27% of the company. Okay. So the pre-money value is basically what is the percentage that they are buying for their 30 million? I should have done 30 million shares. Idiot. Okay, so the 30 million that they take in, right? 30 divided by 180 is 16.6%. So for the $30 million, they'd be buying 16.6% of the company if they invested 30 million. This is probably over people's heads. I don't know. Or people are like, this is really simple, whatever. That's what it is. So if it was 150 million, right? And they can, and Feldman is raising money. He's doing whatever he can to raise the dough because we know that's what he's doing. And he goes in to meet with Dana, and Dana was like, he knows that Feldman wants to build the company, but Dana wants to buy it, right? I guess there is a scenario if there were already investors at 150 where he didn't have, he wasn't fully subscribed. Like, he's trying to raise 30. He's got 7 committed or whatever, where Dana goes, I'll tell you what, we're not really interested in investing, but we'll buy the entire company for 200. You know what I mean? Like that's the way that is a way where maybe that offer makes sense. I doubt that they would offer more than what the value that they're raising the money is at, but nonetheless, that is possible. Okay. But what I will tell you is that no one's going to say it's a lowball offer, right? Because you offered more than what they're raising money at. So it's definitely not a lowball offer if that was the case. So here's the deal, right? Let's say that it's not real. Okay. So let's say it's not real. I am pretty much of the opinion if you offered him 200, he's taking it too, because that makes him wealthy and that would be incredible. But let's say that he is committed and he wants to build this thing and he really did reject it. Okay, so why would Mike Perry be talking about it on the channel? Okay, simple. Is because he's trying to create, like this would only be done in conspiracy with Dave Feldman, where Dave Feldman's like, look, you cannot say that this came from me. You absolutely cannot say that this came from anywhere near me. You're going to have to make up some source that has nothing to do with anything official because, but what we're trying to do, we're trying to get the idea out to the public that we were offered $200 million and that we rejected it, because that is a way where they will create the idea that there are people trying to buy the company, which makes investing in it a smarter idea. It's like, damn, if I can get in at 150 and they're already turning down $200 million, offers, then I should get this money in, right? So it's basically like a way to juke the system. It's like whether it's true, first of all, if Dana really did make that offer, without any shred of doubt, Feldman would have to stay quiet about it, because you burn that bridge into the fucking ground. If it's true and you rejected it, you don't tell anybody that, right? Because then you just make it to where they'll never buy your company ever again. Or if it's not true, then of course you don't source yourself, right? If all you're trying to do is create the idea in the public that you turned down Dana's $200 million thing, so you're trying to drum up investment dollars from someone else, right? And here's the thing. One thing I do know, actually, I don't think I could talk about that. Let's just say this. Lots of people who are promoters pretended to be further along in negotiations with people than they actually were, or said they had a conversation they never even had. I'm not talking specifically about Feldman necessarily, but I'm saying, like, there are times I know of at firsthand where people were like, we did this behind the scenes, but they went the other way. And it's like, that's just not true. That's not true. You never, like, that's just 100% not true, And actually, I'm specifically not talking about Feldman in this case, but very, very similar situation where it's like trying to create the impression of something to drum up either interest or money elsewhere. So I will just stand by this, is Dana would not be talking to BKFC if he was not either trying to feel them out to see if they could buy it, or the only other option would be like fact collecting, to try to get information about where they're at on raising money or whatever. And the only reason he'd be interested in that is if he was interested in potentially buying them also, because that would mean that he sees them as competition. There is no scenario where Dana's meeting with Dave Feldman where, at least in the back of his mind, he is not considering acquiring that company. I will just stand by that. Bottom line. Let's move on. Now, I would imagine the most controversial thing that I've said thus far is not that Sean Strickland's an influencer, since if you have a brain, you know that he's an influencer. Doesn't mean anything other than the fact that he has a lot of influence and people pay attention to what he says. But what I also said that's more controversial, I bet, is that you guys and Sean Strickland do not know who Bryce Hall is, or Sean Strickland definitely doesn't know who Bryce Hall is. And when it comes to fighting him, that might actually matter. Why am I saying that? Because what do we respect here, guys? Like, what do we respect in combats? What do we respect? Like an influencer who got offered to do influencer boxing, right? Hey, do you want to do influencer boxing? And he was like, if he would have said yes, I'd have been like, all right, at least he's like down to do combat sports. What if he was like, nah, I'm cool. How about I do BKFC against a seasoned BKFC boxer instead? Would that be gangster? Because let's watch this.
The influencer boxer scene's kind of dying. Like, it's oversaturated now. And the only people that are really like bringing eyes to the sport are like Jake Paul, KSI, and Logan Paul. I thought, what better way to just kind of like one up them and stick like the middle finger to their face than to do bare-knuckle, because no other influencer is ever going to do it. They'll say that they want to, but they're never going to do it. And I'm going to be the only one to do it. So it's like, just one up to all you people that are veterans in the YouTube boxing space. I thought the influencer boxing.
Yeah. So he didn't just talk about doing it. He did it. And he won. Okay? He won. Okay? He fought in BKFC and won against a seasoned BKFC guy. Now, do you remember what happened when Luke Rockhold fought in BKFC? Fought Mike Perry. He lasted one clean shot to his mouth, and he was like, that's enough. That's enough. Okay? Because check this out, dude. Like, this dude is for real, all right? Like, he's not, listen, let me make perfectly clear. I am not saying he's going to beat Sean Strickland in a sparring match, or in a fight at all. That's not my point whatsoever. What I'm saying is, Sean should respect him if he knows that this kid went from, hey, do you want to do influencer boxing? He was like, nah, fuck that. I'll go fight a veteran in BKFC bare-knuckle. And then he won. And not because, he didn't win a cheap victory. He was bombing on this dude, okay? I know you guys, you have to acknowledge that's gangster. In what world is that not gangster? I just figured I'd stick a middle finger to Jake and Logan by doing BKFC against a veteran BKFC guy, and he won. That's not gangster. Come on, dude. That's gangster. I'll show you some clips too. All right, so let's look at the first 25 seconds of the fight between Bryce Hall and G. Perez, because this is who Bryce Hall is, okay? He's a TikToker. He's a TikToker, and he took this fight. Watch this. You tell me if this guy is like Sneako or one of these other guys, okay?
Round number one. White trunks for Bryce Hall, black trunks for G. Perez. Goes immediately to the outside. Circling out to the inside. Big shots, and down goes G. Perez on the right hand.
Told ya. Let's watch that one more time, just so we, get a little taste of this. This is the beginning of the fight.
Goes immediately to the outside. Circling out to the inside. Big shots, and down goes G. Perez on the right.
Okay. You think he deserves our respect? A TikToker that trained and then went in there and did BKFC? Guy's got brass balls, dude. I don't give a fuck what anybody says. If you think he doesn't, then you're stupid. It takes granite balls to get into a BKFC ring no matter what. And he won and looked good. Now, am I saying that he's going to beat Sean Strickland? Of course not. Of course not. Because now we get to the part about Bryce Hall not knowing who Sean Strickland is. But before I do show you that, I will say one thing. Why do you guys think that Izzy went into the fight against Sean Strickland at a disadvantage? Do you think that there's a possibility that he took him really lightly? Yes. If Sean Strickland goes into a fight with Bryce Hall thinking that he's Sneako, does that leave him potentially open to some kind of thing that hurts him before he realizes, like, oh shit, this guy's not Sneako? Yes, of course it does. Once he figures it out, like, of course he's going to get really serious, and of course he'll win. But does that mean that there is no chance that Bryce Hall touches him a little bit beforehand with moves like that? You be the judge, dude. Be smart. He went in there with Sneako like he was pawing at a baby. If Bryce Hall's smart, he will watch that video and he will go in there and look as helpless and stupid as possible when they first start, lull him to sleep, and then throw that running forward overhand to, what do you think? I think he threw overhand, and then he stepped to the side and threw right hook, left uppercut. I mean, it doesn't need to be that exactly, but you know what I'm saying. Like, go in there like a goofy fucking retard is what you should do if you want to have any chance, because as soon as Strickland figures out that you're good, he is going to do what he does, and he's going to be basically impossible for you to hit. No matter how fast you are, he is going to control distance, and he's going to touch you with that jab all day long. It's going to be terrible. But like I said, Bryce Hall, play dumb, play retard. Which brings us to this section. So Lorenzo Hunt is the dude on the right. He's the current champion at light heavyweight. And he called out Sean Strickland because he was like, dude, you're calling out Bryce Hall. Bryce Hall only has one fight. And so on and so forth. You should come fight me. And I'm going to show you a pretty crazy knockout that this guy had. And then I'm going to segue that into what Sean Strickland would be if he went straight into BKFC, because I have a pretty strong, educated opinion, and it also has to do with Bryce Hall not knowing who Sean is. It's all going to be in one little package here. So watch this. This is a crazy finish to a fight. So that is what we're going to watch right now. I'm going to actually mute it so I can talk our way through it. Check this out. All right. So this is the end of the first round. And look at this. The guy on the right again is the champion, takes huge body shot and then tries to get set up, and then he's throwing the jab, just putting the jab in his face, and then boom, gets caught heavy. Big overhand left hook that caught him clean. And he's like, oh my gosh, man. And you're like, oh my God, dude, this guy's the champion and he got rocked like that with an overhand. You got 17, 16, 15 seconds left. And then watch this, dude. They're all right, reset, bare knuckle, good night. And out like a light. That guy got overconfident, dude. He went in there thinking he was going to be able to finish if he just shot in there and, went for broke. But it's BKFC bare knuckles, dude. Bare knuckles is a different ballgame. You get caught, you are, I used to say things that were incorrect. Listen, people break my balls about being overly confident in my opinions, and I can't, that's just not true. I will say things very confidently, but I am always open to having my opinion changed, and I am exceptional at knowing what opinions obviously are more educated than mine. And if I think the person is solid and they're they're more credible than me, I will just switch my opinion. Example, and why I'm bringing that up right now, is I used to say that fighting bare knuckle, versus just boxing in MMA gloves is not very different. I was like, dude, how different is that, dude? A 3-ounce glove, dude. If you get clipped, if you're gonna get knocked out with a bare knuckle, you're gonna get knocked out with a 3-ounce glove. And I talked to one of the most credible sources in the world, which is Alan Belcher, who was the heavyweight champion. He's still the heavyweight champion as far as I'm concerned. He just left the organization, never lost. And he was like, nah, dude. He's like, no. He's like, it is very different. And I'm like, so what's most different? Like, because if you hit someone with a right hand, that you really, if you put one on their chin, don't you think they're going out in both cases? He's like, yes, but that's not why it's different. He's like, dude, you get hit with a stiff bare knuckle jab versus a stiff jab, the identical jab with the glove on. He's all, it's super different. He's like, it's very, very different. And why are we talking about that? Read my mind, guys. Why are we talking about the difference between a jab in a 3-ounce UFC glove versus bare knuckle, leading into talking about Sean Strickland and where Sean Strickland would be if he went straight into BKFC? Okay. So I want to, before I do that, also go over here and talk about why we are talking about this.
I know this is crazy to say, but if me and him box, it'll be different. You think so? Yes. I can actually put like a shit ton of money on it. I don't care. It would be very, very close.
Now, what does that tell us about Bryce Hall's education when it comes to MMA? It means it's not really there. He doesn't watch mixed martial arts, and he has not watched Sean Strickland, okay? Because he watched Sean Strickland in actual prize fights. Because if there is a single person in the entire organization where going to straight boxing instead of mixed martial arts is going to make absolutely no difference, it's Sean Strickland. Okay? Sean Strickland is by far the most successful UFC fighter who basically uses boxing, right? Now, he's not just using boxing in MMA, because he has to consider takedowns, he has to consider kicks and all that stuff, right? But his approach is using footwork, walking guys down, Philly shell, and battering you with his hands, okay? You take away kicks and takedowns, that doesn't make Sean less dangerous, it makes him more dangerous. 100%. This is not that's not even controversial, okay? Anybody who knows anything will 100% agree with this, okay? All you're doing is making it to where all he has to worry about is the punches, and he no longer has to worry about checking kicks, no longer has to worry about getting taken down, because that's basically what he's doing anyway. He turns his defensive game into autopilot, right? He turns it into autopilot, and if you really watch him, he is focused on the hands, and he's focused on finding his spots for his jab, and he's focused on footwork, he's focused on distance, and all of that stuff. All you've done is made his game more simple if you take away kicks and takedowns. That would not be the case with almost any other mixed martial artist. If Bryce Hall knew Sean Strickland and really knows boxing, which I have no reason to assume that he doesn't, then he would know that. So he doesn't know what he's talking about when it comes to Sean Strickland. Now, the reason that I brought that up is because, my opinion, if you put Sean Strickland into BKFC, as soon as he gets in there, he is instantly the best bare-knuckle boxer in the world, okay? That's my honest opinion. I think Sean Strickland would be the best bare-knuckle boxer in the world instantly. He probably I take that back. I think Sean Strickland, as of right now, is the best bare-knuckle boxer in the world. And I don't even think that that's a very controversial statement to make without even having seen him do bare-knuckle boxing. Now, let me qualify that. I am not including current prize fighters like Canelo who don't do bare-knuckle fighting. I'm talking about of the people who currently are bare-knuckle boxers in an organization or have competed in bare-knuckle boxing. I think instantly Sean Strickland becomes a favorite against any of them. Why? What does he do? What are the things that he is best at, right? He's the best at not getting hit, okay? He's the best at not getting hit. And you can say, oh, well, he actually got touched pretty good in the, in the Dricus fight. Did he, though? And why? It's because he had to defend against takedowns. Not anymore. Not in BKFC. He doesn't have to defend against takedowns at all. That is a complete non-concern for him at all, okay? How did Dricus do before he was able to establish that he could get Sean on the ground if he, pressed it? Okay, Dricus was doing a very good job of mixing up attacks. Bare knuckle boxing, you can't do that, okay? And what did I just say about what Alan Belcher told me? What does it feel like to get punched in the face with a jab and a bare knuckle? Not very good, okay? And look at what he did to Dricus's face with just his jab in a 3-ounce glove. Imagine if this thing is bare knuckle. He's going to knock their teeth out. He's going to shatter their teeth. He's going to shatter their nose. He's going to shatter their orbital bone. He's going to jab their face into silly putty, okay? He's going to turn him into a marshmallow face that doesn't have bones with his jab only. He's going to touch him and touch him and touch him, and they're going to try to do those overhand, those quick, those big moving things. Sean, like, seriously, the reason why I showed you these 2 clips was to show you how these guys are having success in BKFC, okay? Hook exchanges or rushing forward and catching with short punches. Guys do not catch Sean Strickland with that. He got caught only by Alex Pereira, who is an absolutely top-tier, world-class kickboxer who set him up with those shots to the body and then came upstairs. It seems like a simple setup, but if you don't have the kind of power that Alex Pereira has to where when he goes to your body low with like kind of a quick yap, it hurts bad. Think of how big and long Pereira is and his ability to make it hurt going there to where Sean's actually going to drop, he's going to drop his hands, and he probably won't ever do that again anyway. I mean, like this, that's why I showed this. It's like these are not going to work against Sean. Honestly, I'm just going to wrap it up right there. I have nothing else to add. Sean beats the brakes off these guys in bare knuckle boxing, in real boxing, in MMA, whatever. Sean beats the brakes off all of them. That doesn't mean I don't have respect for these guys, especially Bryce Hall. Wait, you have respect for Bryce Hall, not the champion? The guy was a TikTok influencer, and he went and did BKFC, and he won. That's gangster as, you know what I mean? Anyway, that's what I got. Love you guys.